With so many shows adapted from movies or other works, it's rare for a new musical to be an act of pure imagination, but Superhero is just that. Composer-lyricist Tom Kitt and book writer John Logan bonded over their shared love of comic books, so we met them at Midtown Comics to find out more about the inspiration behind this moving new show about a boy, his mother, and their new neighbor. We are here at Midtown Comics because the name of your musical is Superhero, so it felt fitting. But this is a musical people don't know. So tell me, what is Superhero?
Superhero is, it's an original idea that I just started thinking on probably about 8 or 9 years ago. And the story centers around a family who are in crisis. It's a mother and her son, and the father died tragically. The character of the son is obsessed with comics the way John and I both are, and then he starts to see characteristics in this third character that he thinks may or may not be the characteristics of a superhero.
John, you're known for your illustrious playwriting career and screenwriting career. How did you get involved with this musical?
Well, you know, it really is because I'm just besotted with musicals, and I grew up with them. And, you know, in my house, the most sacred words were original cast album. Tom started talking to this idea, and talking about it from a very human perspective as a father, about how do you teach your children about fear? How do you let them get hurt and survive? How do you take the myth of the superhero and help people with it? And, you know, I did what your agent says never to do, which I said yes, instantly, in the room, leapt across the table. And, you know, in the years since then, Tom's been my guide and my mentor, taught me what a book writer does as we've worked on the show, and it's been incredibly fulfilling.
The pair set to work finding a way to make comic books the basis for a story that's more human than hero, with real and relatable characters.
The first thing that we did process-wise is we just talked for a really long time, because like Tom, I grew up on superheroes and comic books, and I still, you know, I'm old enough to remember when I was living in San Pedro and comic books went from 10 cents to 12 cents, and how devastating that was, because I only buy one. Do I get Spider-Man or Submariner? You know, and so we spent a lot of time talking about superheroes, and particularly talking about the secret identity, and how Clark Kent is to us as interesting, if not more interesting, than Superman. And what would it really be like if you had a secret identity? You had to be anonymous, you had to have some kind of job, you know, and how sad and lonely that would be in a way.
I wanted to talk about family. I want to talk about my experiences as a father, what my kids teach me, what I hope I'm teaching them, what my wife teaches me every day. There's just so much that you share when you're co-parenting, and if one of those parents were to go away, what that would mean. I mean, to me, the single parent is a superhero in itself to raise children. It's remarkable and extraordinary.
Director Jason Moore joined Superhero to help shape the story along the way. He shared many sensibilities with Kitt and Logan, except for a glaring one.
I am a nerd, but I'm not a comic book nerd. So when I first met with him, I sort of had to go, hey guys, so I don't know as much about comics as you do, but I'll be the eyes of the audience members who don't. So we have kind of a nice, you know, back and forth about it. Like, there's some inside stuff, but how do we make sure everybody in the audience understands it? But I've learned a lot from them, that's for sure.
What is it about comic books that serves as a great metaphor or basis for this musical?
Comics are a great basis for this musical because they're about myths, they're about ideals, and they're about archetypes, and musicals usually too are about big ideas that mythical stories represent. So it's a really surprising but kind of natural match, I think.
Kitt is known for many Broadway shows, most notably the Pulitzer Prize-winning Next to Normal, while Logan is known for his Tony-winning play Red and his Oscar-nominated screenplays for the movies The Aviator, Gladiator, and Hugo. Now they are putting a personal twist on the superhero genre.
We're inundated currently with superheroes, and when you see those movies, there's frequently an apocalyptic violence to them, where cities can be destroyed and cosmos changed in the blink of an eye, and it's a little overwhelming. And if anything else, I think our show suggests there is something else. There's some other reason we're drawn to superheroes, a basic, simple human need that doesn't have to be about the destruction of a universe, it can be about the healing of a family. So it's going from the wide angle to the very tender close-up in a way.
I can see from my kids that there's a lot that they're dealing with in the world right now, and there always has been. But I think what's happening is that it's coming into the home much quicker and with more intensity because of social media and news feeds and basically the devices that they have. So we as parents are trying to navigate this, and the scary thing is that they can discover things that you're not around to talk to them about, and you can't shield them from everything. So that's part of the show, knowing that you can't shield them from everything, that they're going to discover things, they're going to get hurt. I've always found that art in the world that speaks to that and shows the hope and the humanity can counter that.
I think one of the things that's interesting about teenager problems is that when you're a teenager, things do feel like life and death. The whole world can come crashing down. And so there's something about teenagers and the way that they view angst and love, that an acceptance and feeling other than, that one, we all have a root in probably, because we all experienced some version of that, but also teenagers look at the world in a kind of emotionally amplified way, and I think that works well for musical theater.
One of the things I really love about this show is that for Charlotte, Kate Baldwin's character, you're not seeing her just in relation to her son. It's not just a mother and son relationship. You're getting to sort of see how she's relating to the rest of the world. And I'm thinking especially about the song The In-Between, and I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
We knew that the central sort of conflict for the show was the reconciliation and the relationship between mother and son. But also being a parent is also, how do you stay in touch with yourself? How do you service the things that you need for your family and for your children while still maintaining a sense of self? And that struggle seemed very modern, very interesting, and very relatable. So in between for these two characters is them sort of deciding, how do I help others and also help myself? And sometimes those things are in conflict with one another.
It's a lifelong struggle for a balance I've never seen, the unwinnable fight. But it's not black or white, it's in between.
Tell me about your comic book heroes and hanging out in places like this.
Well, hanging out in places like this, I think we both feel like we're in heaven right now. Literally the candy store.
For me, it was always a very sort of binary response, because I always loved Spider-Man and I always loved Submariner. Because Peter Parker is who I thought I was, but Submariner is who I wanted to be. Because he was like foxy, he was like powerful, he was aquatic, I lived in California, so it was always those two. But like being in a place like this, for me, and I've spent way too many hours in stores exactly like this, is really comforting. Because it's like going through the gates of Oz, where everything's green and everyone around you speaks the same language.
I just love this world, and I think back to when I was 4 years old and my parents took me to see Superman in the movie theater on Long Island for the first time, and it was just a wave of emotion, and I just thought I would like to bring those qualities to a musical, and I think you could have both something that's fantastical but also deeply human.